David, sir, appreciate it. Taking the time and coming over here and telling us a little bit about you and your business, David. Okay. I know you for a little while. We got together, I don't know, half a dozen times.
Yep.
Throughout the year, last year or so, or maybe 18 months, maybe even more, no? 2 years? No, it was last year.
Yeah, it was when you took over the building down in Solon.
Yeah. So I know you a little bit, okay, but I'd like to know you a little more.
Okay.
So if you give me the permission, I have some questions here. All I ask for you is for your honesty.
Sure.
I'm going rock and roll. All right, David. We'll start real easy, and then we'll get into the hard questions. I'm just kidding. Tell me where you were born and raised. Start there.
Oh, okay. So I was born just east of here, technically at Hillcrest Hospital, but I grew up in Pepper Pike, Ohio.
Pepper Pike.
And spent pretty much, other than going to college and a little time I worked in Washington, D.C., I've been a Cleveland boy my entire life.
So, so you born here, went to Washington, D.C. just for a couple months, couple years, came back?
After college, I went to college in Virginia, and then after college, I was in D.C. working in Capitol Hill for about 4 months. I wanted to get the feeling of what, I love politics, and so I wanted to get a sense of what politics is like on a national level. And I pretty quickly determined that I have no interest in working for somebody else in politics, because you can never line up exactly with somebody in their positions, and it just wasn't of interest to me. It was fascinating, but I decided pretty quickly that was not for me.
That's interesting. I didn't know that aspect of you, and if we have time, I'd love to follow up with some questions about that.
Sure.
And your opinion about what's going on.
I'll just tell you one thing that will either scare the hell out of you or make you feel good. A huge amount of what's done in Washington, D.C. is done by people under the age of 30. So people with lots of experience and perspective.
Okay. See, that's more fuel for maybe a second interview, huh?
Maybe.
All right, David. Married, single,
married.
Kids, married.
We have 3 kids and a bonus. So we have a rising senior at Indiana University in supply chain operations. We have a rising sophomore at Penn State, he's in electrical engineering. We have our youngest would be in high school right now, but she tested out early. She went to Cleveland School of Cannabis, got a certificate there, and is working at a hemp manufacturing company, which is pretty cool. And then our bonus baby, we wound up with custody of another 18-year-old who just finished her freshman year in nursing at Bowling Green. So we got 4.
4, huh?
Yeah.
Man. I got 2, and
how old are they?
They're 11 and 14.
Okay. I'm a little bit ahead of you.
Yeah.
But I'm a little bit older than you, so that makes sense.
Are you? I don't know. Favorite leisure activity? Stuff that you go out and it makes you just relax or smile on your face, or maybe
So I'll give you 3. So in no particular, I read a ton. I read a lot as a kid, and I love reading, so I read pretty much every day. And I don't know, I probably read a couple hundred books a year. I plow through books, love reading. Second thing is I love golf, and maybe not interesting to everybody, but I love playing with my buddies. I had my best round on Saturday that I've had in a while, and it's long overdue. I also actually like playing by myself because then I can work on my game. And
That's
then
right.
The other thing is, more recently, probably in the last 6 or 7 years, I've gotten into shooting. So we actually...
What kind?
Anything from trap shooting to pistols to rifles. I enjoy it. It's something it is absolute. You either hit the target and you score, and you can figure out exactly where you score, or you don't.
Yep. Can lie yourself do the whole thing, or can make stuff up. It's there. Yeah. But awesome. So you got golf, reading, shooting.
Yeah. And I can tell you about a really.
Have you ever shot? While you I'm just kidding. While you golfing and reading a book?
No, we try.
All the 3 at the same time.
Yeah, we try not to mix golfing with shooting. That can get a little bit dangerous.
All right, awesome. All right, let's talk about. This is more information that I want, which is the question number 4, which is your favorite local restaurant. I'm a food guy, so I always like to know what people like to eat because I want to try them out. But if you have one, why don't you share with everyone your favorite local spot?
We live in Bainbridge. And my wife and I recently came across a place called the Tipsy Bowl. So it would not be fair to call it a dive bar. It's not. But there used to be a place in Bainbridge called Brick House Burgers, and they had fantastic burgers, but it was only takeout. And they closed a few years ago and then opened up this place, the Tipsy Bowl, which is off of 306, just south of 422. And they've got a great bar. Love the servers there. The owner's there almost every single day. And their burgers are absolutely fantastic.
I mean, the name sounds very original.
So we came across it about maybe 3 months ago. And I think we've been there at least once a week, every week since then.
Oh, wow.
So it's our local dive bar. Tipsy Bowl.
Noted. Yeah. When you say it's not fair to call it a dive bar,
it's not a downscale,
it's
like
dirty.
That's a fair point. It's clean. It's very clean.
Gotcha.
The food's good. The kids, I've watched them clean the kitchen.
Gotcha.
But that's my favorite. That's my favorite local place of life.
Awesome. Appreciate you sharing, David. 3 attributes that define you, my man. 3 of them.
Love fun. Love having fun and helping people have fun. Innovative. I've actually been called an arsonist by some people. There's changing things and they're blowing things up. Arsonist. And then I think the other one is, and it's a core value, is compassion. And compassion doesn't mean feeling sorry for people, to me at least. Compassion to me is, what is it that you do or what is it that you can do to help people succeed, to help people go from where they are to the next level. And so I'm a big fan of that, whether in my personal life, whether it's in political policies and so on and so forth, that I can't fix you. I'm not saying you need to be fixed, but can't fix you. That's not the wrong approach. But what can I do to help you help yourself? To me, that's compassion. And I'm a big fan of that.
Now, does that, and maybe this translates into question number 6, which I was going to ask you about Equalis Group, right? And to tell me the story behind it and how that came about and how you ended up there.
So the very short story is probably 20 years ago, I was having breakfast at Corky and Lenny's over in Woodmere, and with a friend of mine who worked at the Cleveland Foundation, and he had been doing this big. He's a former McKinsey guy. If you've ever met anybody who went to McKinsey, they love PowerPoints and they love graphs and charts and 2x2 graphs and all this stuff. And he had done this analysis of the proliferation of local governments. We have, I don't know, if you look in 16 counties in Northeast Ohio, we have close to 900 governmental agencies in 16 counties. It's a massive number. And so he put together this whole analysis. And there's a spot you can go over in Parma that you can stand on the street corner and see 3 different fire departments because you've got 3 different cities that are all coming together right there. And so he put this whole analysis together, and his point was, hey, if we consolidated governments, we could greatly reduce the cost structure, which then, whether you're a tax-paying resident or you're a business person or both, then that helps everybody. It frees up more resources for all of us, but also means that we're not wasting dollars in the public. I mean, in Cuyahoga County, do you really need 57 police chiefs in an area the size of Cuyahoga County?
So how quickly did they get shut down?
Well, I told him, I said, Brad, there's only 2 things that could make that happen. Either an act of the state legislature or an act of God. And I don't even know which one is more likely. So what he did was, he said to me, all right, well, what would you do? And that became the business that I built and then ultimately sold when we joined Equalis Group, and I moved over to be in the leadership team at Equalis Group. And what we do is called, it's group purchasing. In the public sector, so cities, counties, K-12 schools, whatever, there's very specific rules they have to follow when it comes to how they spend taxpayer dollars. And it's very cumbersome. And if you're a vendor or a supplier, if you wanted to have a chance of doing business nationwide, you'd have to go through that process 94,000 times, one for each of those entities. And in fact, with the larger entities, multiple times with each, so it's more than that. Well, there is a way, legally and appropriately, that your city, your school district, your university, your county, your state can buy through contracts that some other public agency has already gone through that whole detailed process and awarded to the most qualified supplier. And think of it like piggybacking. You can just piggyback on the work that's already been done. So what we do is we work with a couple public agencies, one in Ohio, one in Texas. We work with them and source contracts, go through that whole process, award contracts to winning suppliers, who have the best scores and are the best suppliers for that product or that service, and then make those contracts available to public agencies across the country. So instead of spending 3 or 6 or 9 or 12 months going through their procurement process, if there's a supplier that they want to work with because they know that supplier has the right solution, and they know with us they're getting a really good price because we've gone through that process for them, they can just implement with that supplier tomorrow. It saves a tremendous amount of time. It reduces the cost for both the public agencies as the buyers going through that 6, 9, 12-month process, and for the suppliers who are going through the same process over and over and over again. So they can afford to give a better price because their cost of sales have gone down. So as an agency, you get to work with the suppliers that you want, the products and services you need, without having to go through all that work. And as a supplier, you can work with customers who want to buy from you in the public sector without also having to go through all that work. So we're streamlining things in the public sector.
Interesting, man. And the fact that I didn't even know that there was this type of service that you could offer, and the way you explained it to me, first of all, it makes sense.
All right, well,
So
that's a relief. I've been doing it for a long time. If I can't explain it, I'm in trouble.
No, you explained it really well, and I'd like to know a little more. Maybe even not today.
Sure.
I'd love to know a little more about it.
Well, one thing I will tell you is that all the work that we do, Mauricio, is designed to work these in all 50 states, the different requirements for public agencies, for taxpayer-funded entities. We design our contracts with suppliers so that nonprofit organizations, for-profit companies can also buy through these contracts. So you think of things that folks spend money on regularly. You've got office supplies or maintenance supplies or janitorial sanitation supplies. Not in this case in a multi-tenant building, but electricity and natural gas. So we actually have more private sector customers, small and mid-sized businesses primarily, than we do public agencies. And we've got 5,300 public agencies across the country in all 50 states. We actually have far more private and nonprofit members of our organization. There's no cost to join. It just gives you access to the contracts. So we're actually not, I wouldn't say completely unintentionally, but as a byproduct of the work we're doing for the public sector, we're actually helping folks in the private sector as well.
Okay, so do you have anybody else that offers the same service as you? I guess the reason I'm asking that is I was going to ask you what separates you from somebody else that may be offering that same service.
Okay, so I'll look in the public sector side. In the public sector side, the answer is yes. There's other companies that do what we do. What I would tell you, just philosophically, the biggest difference for us is that suppliers have to compete to win a contract from us. So early on in the relationship, they are competing to win. They are putting their best foot forward. They're putting their best offer together. Once they've won a contract, our entire organizational structure is built around the very simple premise that the person that pays you is your customer. And we're providing a legal mechanism for the city of Beechwood, for example, or the city of Solon. Solon is involved directly with our organization. Beechwood's a member. We provide a mechanism for them to be able to transact with suppliers. But the business takes place between the city of Beechwood and that supplier. And ultimately the supplier bills the city of Beechwood and Beechwood pays the supplier. We get paid a really small percentage of that transaction by the supplier. So our philosophy, which totally sets us apart from all of our competitors, is that once you're a supplier, then you become our customer. Because we're only generating revenue for ourselves when you're successful selling through our contract.
Of course.
So we know you're a good supplier. You won. So we know that you're a good supplier. And now our job becomes making it as easy as possible for you, your sales organization, to be successful, to sell in the public sector, and to make it as easy as possible for the city of Beechwood to be able to buy from you.
And a supplier can join in. They have like application and filtering process.
Well, we have a competitive selection process that follows all those public sector rules. They have to win that. Once they've won, just like they'd have to win if Beechwood did a bid or an RFP for fill in the blank for let's see what they do recently. It's not Beechwood, but the Cuyahoga County Public Library is doing a massive renovation, or maybe even a new library branch in Beechwood. So we have a number of our contracts that are being used for that because we've already gone through that vetting process to be able to say to the library, hey, you need that new roof you need?
Yeah.
We've got a company.
Valuable, man. Very, very valuable. Appreciate it. You've been you guys been a tenant for numerous years in that building now.
5 years.
Right, 5 years.
And just re-up.
And what?
And just re-up.
That's right. That's right.
Under new ownership.
How would you rate your experience with JMR so far there, David?
I would say it's been fantastic. And of course I get to compare against the prior.
Of course. I mean, this whole game is you know.
And I was in commercial real estate for a number of years, so I know a little bit more than the average tenant. The difference, and again, we're in the Cochran building down in Solon, not in the Green Road building in Beechwood, but the differences are multiple. First of all, you're very responsive. You and your team, you're very responsive. You follow through on the things that we talk about, whether it's something you bring to me or I bring to you. Either way, you guys follow through on that. You can see the popcorn machine sitting here. You got that popcorn day.
I'll show you guys.
St. Patrick's Day, we had cookies sitting there. And sweet Valentine's Day, we got the chocolate. So, and even having conversations like this, there's a tenant newsletter, for goodness sake. When you and I first met and I said, hey, here's some things in our suite that have never been addressed. We've brought it up a number of different times. Your team stepped in and got them fixed. And the sense that I get from you personally and from the JMR team generally is, yeah, you're looking to grow. You want to be successful for your 2 kids and for your family, and you want the folks that work for you to be successful as well. And you're doing that by intentionally working to be responsive and build a sense of community. And that's, I've done commercial real estate off and on for over 20 years, 27 years. That's unusual, and it shows.
Yeah, I just picked that up recently, actually. No,
which part?
The part where if you invest in other people generally and the community, they'll going to give it back to you.
Absolutely.
Well, I mean, that's a cycle. It always goes like that. But it needs to start with me.
Absolutely.
Or it needs to start with who, if you can't go in expecting something already. No. You have to put the value in there first. Yeah. Give first.
It's pay
and
it forward.
And then you will receive. Yeah. But yeah.
Well, it all comes around, right? That whole thing, pay it forward, it all works.
Yeah.
I mean, look, we had a situation where our needs had changed because a portion of our operation we shut down several years ago, and we sized our space to include that operation, which has been gone for 4 years. And we wanted to stay in the building, love the location, love the new ownership and your approach to doing business, and we had to figure some things out in order to make that work.
And we did.
And we did. And the point is that we did. Remarkably, that's not necessarily the norm.
We have to wrestle a little bit.
Yeah, a little bit.
It's okay.
You
got a little bit.
Yeah. But that's not the norm in commercial real estate. No. It's not.
Yeah. I appreciate it. I appreciate your honest feedback, David.
Yeah.
Okay, so last question here, Dave. See, time flies by when you're having fun, dude.
Yeah.
But I love this question, which is, what's your superpower, David? What is the thing that you absolutely amazing at, that you believe? It doesn't matter what other people think.
Right.
Okay.
My own person,
that you believe.
Well, my
that
charm,
you're
my good looks, my humility.
You make
they all come
fantastic barbecue. I mean,
right.
I mean, do you putt like hell? I mean, what do you?
I'm a good putter.
What do you think superpower is, if you had to pick one?
I think it's asking the right questions to understand the situation or the problem, and then approaching it not from a question of why would we do whatever, but why can't we?
How can we?
So why can't we do it differently? And someone told me years ago they encouraged me to do it. She encouraged me to do what she calls a 180, which is approach every situation the exact opposite of your natural tendency. So instead of making a statement, ask a question. Instead of saying something, be quiet. Instead of being quiet, speak up. Like, do that. And it absolutely forced me to reconstruct how my mind works in order to be able to follow through on that challenge. And that gives me the ability to sit down, really ask a lot of good questions, and then start ideating and trying to get, hey, what if we did this? Why can't we do that? And come up with solutions to situations that people think are incredibly complex, like our current business model, by the way.
Awesome. I have to say, that's when other people ask this question, you're the one that, I mean, you knew right away, you know, plus you were detail explaining it. So I appreciate that.
Man's got to know his limitations.
David, awesome.
Hey, Mauricio,
Cool.
thank you so much.